On the calendar, it said that the course closes on February 16th. That was a misrepresentation, and it's been changed. The course closes on February 23rd. That's a whole week later. So just so you all know that, okay? Everybody got that?
Thank you.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, I'd like to say good morning and welcome to this portion of your FET training. This webinar is a continuation of the brief 9-slide online introduction to evaluation that you've completed prior to today. Today we're going to work with and discuss the specific levels of evaluation. As we proceed, please remember to mute your speakers until you wish to make a comment, most especially if you are dealing with background noise. Reducing that background noise helps both us in the fact that we are recording this webinar and for the ease of hearing one another as you interact. If it's very quiet where you are probably okay without having to mute. Are we clear? Everybody good to go?
Yes.
All righty. So today you'll have an opportunity to learn about and practice classifying evaluation inquiries into the 4 levels of evaluation. Feel free to also access the identified pages in your FET handout. Our training outcome is on your PowerPoint, and I'm going to give you a moment to read that. Our roadmap for today's webinar is very straightforward and to the point. We're going to define, describe, and work with the 4 levels of evaluation. Prior to logging on to this webinar in the online introduction to evaluation, you were introduced to the purpose of evaluation. You received some pros and cons of conducting evaluation, and you posted 3 to 4 ways to collect evaluation data that either you have used in your recent training sessions or that you have actually experienced as a participant in workshops that you have attended. Also, during our recent face-to-face training, you discussed the many pros and cons around evaluation when you participated in the Great Debate activity. Does that ring a bell with you?
Yes. Yes.
You all remember the Great Debate we did?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. All right. Well, all of these activities set the groundwork for our webinar today as we learn about and work with the 4 levels of evaluation. Do you have any questions regarding the information you've gotten so far?
No. No.
Anybody?
No.
All right. Then we're going to move forward. Not moving forward. There we go. The 4 levels of evaluation are randomly listed on the screen, but in reality, there is a specific order for them. They go in from level 1, 2, 3 to 4. Looking at this list, which one of these do you think is evaluation at level 1, which is participant reaction? Guess I kind of gave that away.
Yeah, I was going to say participant reaction.
And you are absolutely right.
Do you want us to type these answers, or do you want us to just tell you?
No, yeah. Right now we're just looking at the list, and if I were to ask you which was the first level, which do you think is the first level, and someone said participant reaction, and that is correct. That is level 1. All right. That said, looking at the rest of them on the list, which one of these do you think is considered level 2?
Participant learning.
All right, and you are correct on that one. All right, for what's left, which one of these do you think is level 3 evaluation?
Behavior change.
Ooh, you were all in agreement on that. That is correct. And of course, that leaves one left, and that is level 4. What if we just think about the last two, behavior change and results and impact, they're different. What do they mean to you, one or the other? What does behavior change mean to you?
Completely doing it different from the way that you have been
All
doing
right. That's very succinct. Doing something differently now than you did in the past, correct?
Yes.
All right.
I've always heard this phrase, if you always do what you've always done, then you'll always get what you always got. Does that make sense?
Exactly. That fits here, doesn't it? If we want behavior change to happen, we can't keep doing what we've always done, right?
Yes.
Right.
So that said, when you look at the one that says results and impact, what does that mean to you?
That's the change in the person that you're teaching, the children's lives, the impact that
Okay.
you're making.
In our case, it's the change in the children's lives. We should be making some kind of impact. There should be some kind of improved quality of services that causes the children to be doing, have something improved for them, correct?
Yes.
Right.
All right. That's exactly right. This is the order then that I just want you to keep in your head of the 4 levels of evaluation: participant reaction, then participant learning, behavior change, and results and impacts. Do you have questions regarding the order of any of these or what's gained from them?
No.
No.
Is this in our notebook?
Off the top of my head, I'd have to go back.
Well, but I'm not seeing, is this page in there?
Pages, look at pages 1 through 9. This information is on pages in Module 4, pages 1 through 9. Okay?
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome. Level 1 evaluation is participant reaction, and at this level, the trainer is seeking feedback on the training session itself, and this takes place right at the end of the workshop session. You're all familiar with that.
Yes.
For example, the trainer might ask, what did you enjoy about this training? They might ask, are you satisfied with the support materials that you received? Or they might ask, how effective do you feel your trainer was? The methods for this level can be, you can rate, you can rank, you can ask yes-no questions, you can ask open-ended questions, and all of those give you the information that you want. Though you get more usable information when you ask a simple open-ended question, such as, what did you enjoy, and how that's the most open-ended question that's up on the screen. What did you enjoy? Gives the person an opportunity to expound a little bit on what they liked. Are you satisfied with the support materials? There's a simple yes-no. And how effective was your trainer? Is not as open-ended as it is more kind of a right-wrong answer. Either they thought the trainer was very effective, ineffective, not effective. So it wouldn't require as much verbiage. So those are the ways in which somebody might ask for responses that deal with participant reaction. On participant learning, at this level, you're asking the participants to recall what they learned about. Remember what I said in training? We learn about things in training. We can't guarantee that anything is learned, right?
Yes.
We just don't know that for sure, but we do know for sure that people are going to learn about some stuff. And again, this is done right at the end of the training session. In our face-to-face session, I talked clearly about keeping in mind that phrase, learning about. And so up on the screen, I have examples of how you might phrase statements that offer participants the opportunity to articulate what they learned about. You might say something like, list at least 4 out of the 6 strategies that you practiced on such and such, right? Identify the set of principles discussed on, and then whatever the topic was. These are just snippets of what that full sentence, because in this you'd want to mention the topic, correct?
Yes.
Are you there? Yeah. Describe 2 strategies that support a particular concept that was covered, or complete a post-training inventory. All of these things are ways in which whatever participants respond back, it gives us, the trainer, an idea of things that kind of stuck in their head. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's not whether they liked it or not. This is the actual content, the meat. You know, what do they remember? Again, the methods that you would use for this could be lists, it could be descriptions, it could be comparisons, it could be narratives, and it could be inventories. These open-ended methods allow for much more information to come from the participants. If you could mute your phones if you're in a busy place, please do. Level 1 and Level 2 information is gathered when? When do you gather these levels of evaluation?
At the end of the training.
After you're finished training?
Right at the end of the training. And we're all familiar with that, aren't we?
Yes.
Whether we're participants or trainers, that's a very common practice. Pass out a sheet of paper, and on that paper are a variety of these kinds of Level 1 and Level 2 evaluation inquiries. Level 3 evaluation is the behavior change of the participants that are attending the training. All right, we're not talking about the children now. This level is inquiring about what participants are doing differently back in their workplace after the training session than what they were doing before they attended the training. At Level 3, you are measuring the adult's use of the knowledge and skills in the workplace setting after training. It's a set number of weeks after they've attended training that you would do a follow-up and look for this information. And depending on the topic, it would depend on when you actually did this inquiry. I used to have up here, notice how I said a set number of weeks after the training, because when I put up there 4 to 8 weeks after the training, people took that to say they have a window of 4 to 8 weeks to get this information, and guess what?
Is that too long?
That's too long. That's exactly right. If it's a learning environment workshop, you probably can go in and do Level 3 evaluation 3 weeks after training, maybe even 2. But if it's a workshop on adult-child interactions, that's a bit more involved. You might not go in for 6 weeks after training, right?
Yes.
So in that sense, depending on the topic, yes, you can choose how many weeks later you want to go in and get this information. But once you decide, you don't have a window in which to get that information. You're going to identify a week in which you're going to gather that information, and it's gathered that week, okay? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So that follow-up is very, very important, and you have to let people know when it's going to happen. They need to know kind of the time frame of what they have in which to practice this and get a little bit better and make some of those changes. And it's the trainer that determines what's the appropriate amount of time needed to practice, enough time so that you can get what you need. So identify the exact number of weeks. It could be as little as 2 for learning environment, as much as 10 for something like adult-child interaction. Okay? Again, methods used for this could be pre- and post lists, pre- and post photos, pre- and post narratives, and from those you would gather percentages because you'd have tally counts, timed observations, and those kinds of things in which to compare against. Thus, this process for Level 3, in reality, begins way back during the needs assessment information or a pre-assignment, because that's where you're going to get your baseline information from which to measure against when you go in and collect information after the training. Again, does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So if I want to find out if there's been any growth from a learning environment workshop, maybe as a pre-assignment or in the needs assessment, either or, but let's just say, I would say when you come to the training, please bring a drawing of a diagram of your current learning environment. That's your baseline, and that's collected before the training. Why before the training? Why do we collect then?
That's your baseline, isn't it? I mean,
that's the baseline. Baseline means what? I just want to make sure everybody's clear on what baseline means.
Okay, to me, baseline is how you were doing it before you came to the training.
Right.
Like how your room was set up before the training. And then when you go in and do the post later on, then they can send you another diagram and to show you if they've made any changes.
That's exactly right. So the baseline is before you've been influenced by any kind of training, right?
Yes.
That current training. So you want to get that, and there's lots of different things you could look for. Don't make it hard on yourself. In this particular case, a diagram is very, very simple and straightforward. You might even ask them to list what materials and the amounts of each material they have in each area. Those two things may be covered in that workshop. And now you have two things to measure that's going to show behavior change on the part of the adult. Is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
All right. Just so that this kind of makes sense to you, I've used the learning environment and adult child. If I were looking at adult child, I might ask them to for instance, I think this came up in our training face-to-face, but we can use it here. I might ask them to do a videotape of them interacting with children in play or reading a story to them, 3 different children for 3 to 5 minutes interaction. At the most, that's like a 15-minute block of time, right? 3 different children, 3 to 5 minutes of an interaction one-to-one with each child. And you do that before training. And that's before we talk about the adult-child interactions so that we can look at how they're interacting with children then. And then some weeks after training, in this case it might be more like 8 weeks or whatever after training, have that do those same 3 children, same 3, interactions, interactions, videotape again. Do you think we might see a change in how the teacher is verbally interacting with the children?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the hope. And we cannot say that that's happening unless we have those videotapes from before the training started to compare them against.
Yes.
Make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay, excellent. Level 4 evaluation is results and impact. This is generally for children in our case. Sometimes it's regarding the family, sometimes it's regarding the whole program. But for our purposes today, really what we're talking about is the results and impact on the children. What is the return on the investment? What's happening here? For example, has the training made a difference in outcomes for children? Has the implementation of the new skill impacted the children in some way? Has the training had any positive results for the program as a whole or the program's objectives? Kinds of things that you might ask are, has there been a percent of decrease, for instance, in children missing less days due to illness because of a hand washing workshop that you did? Has there been a percent of increase of the children engaged in cooperative play if you've been doing, say, a workshop on, positive discipline and those kinds of things? Has there been a percent of increase in children solving their own problems more independently? Or is there a percent of increase in the mean length of utterance of children responding to open-ended questions? So on another example, training on recommended practices for hand washing, for instance, where follow-up implementation on behalf of the staff should result in a decline in sick children and absenteeism. Those are the kinds of things that you're going to be looking for if we train on this, and if the adults change their behavior and do something differently, we should see some impact on the children and be able to measure those results. Results and impact is a measured set of number of months following the training. And again, I used to put up there maybe 3 to 6 months following the training. But we don't look at it as a window like this. The only time there's that window is depending on your topic. Are you clear with that again?
Yes.
Yeah, I might look at results and impact on the learning environment 3 months after training, where I would look at the results on the children and the impact of adult-child interactions more like 5 months later, something like that. But once I say I want to look at the results and impact, I'm going to set a time, and I'm going to do it within a week within a week of that time, I would like everybody to hand in those materials. They're not going to get a whole month in which to hand stuff in. In that 5th month, what week am I going to choose and when am I going to want that information in? Again, that may sound picky, but it's very, very important. You don't want something going over a whole month's time. If you say in 5 months we're going to look at results and impact, pick the week in that month you're going to search out that information and gather it. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
Okay. What I'm really getting at here is you don't have a big window that you're playing with. It's not like I'm going to check on this and I'm going to take all of December to get this information. That isn't what this is all about. It's like, the first week in December, I'm going to gather all this information. That's 5 weeks after I gave this 5 months after I gave this training, and it's time to get that information. Questions about those timelines? Anybody?
I don't have any questions about this part.
What's that?
I don't know. I'm kind of laughing to myself because, for all the other modules, I've been a little bit lost because we talked about that I don't come from an education background, but I came from public health, and we do this stuff all the time. So.
All right. So you're sinking right into this really well, right?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. That's great. So, let's move on then. You're going to experience some online polling in this activity, and this polling gives you an opportunity to read and or hear a question or an inquiry, and then identify the evaluation level of that inquiry. I've chosen 20 evaluation questions that have been submitted by FET participants. What's going to happen is that I'm going to read them one at a time, and you individually are going to decide what level evaluation that inquiry represents. It's either going to be a level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4, and then you enter your vote. Is everybody clear on that?
Yeah.
All right. So we're not going to belabor this. I'm going to put up a question and enter your vote as quickly as you can once you get an idea so that we can just move on and go through this. But for those of you that maybe don't have a screen in front of you, I am going to read the question out loud so everybody's got it. So the first one is, list the 3 steps an adult should use to introduce child-initiated small group time. What level inquiry is that?
Could you read it one more time, please?
Sure. List the 3 steps an adult should use to introduce a child-initiated small group time. So we have 75% said it's level 3 and 33%, it's changed. 60, it's going down. All right. 57% said level 2 and 42% said level 3. This is an inquiry of what people have learned about. So it is a level 2 question. Okay, next. Tape and tally yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions used by the adult while reading a book to children. Tape and tally yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions used by the adult while reading a book to children. We have 50-50 right now. 2 people have voted. What kind of an inquiry is this? Pretty well split, 50. Finish up. All right, there's a lot of confusion on this one. This is level 3, and level 3 is what? What are we looking at in level 3? Get it in your heads. What are we looking at in level 3?
Behavior change.
Right?
Yeah, the adult's behavior change. So if I'm going to tape and tally the yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions that an adult is using while reading a book, that cannot be done in the training, right?
Right.
That is something that's going to be done back at the site after the teacher's had a chance to practice this a little bit. Now I want to find out if he or she is making a difference, right? So that is a level 3, looking at the change in behavior of the adult, finding out what they're doing. Is that clear for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, next. List the verbal support strategies that encourage adult-child interaction. What are we asking about in this question? Anybody?
Knowledge.
Yes, we're asking what they learned about. We want them to list some verbal interaction strategies. That's it. So it's a level 2. You're asking for verbal interaction strategies. They're going to list it. That's on the end. That's on an evaluation form at the end of training. Next. Was this training an effective use of your time? Well, that came quickly. 100% level 1. That is absolutely true. What you're asking is their opinion. Was this training effective, an effective use of your time? So that is a level 1 question. Reaction, participant reaction. Next. Would you recommend this training workshop to your colleagues? What are we asking for here? Participant what?
Reaction.
Yeah, participant reaction, participant opinion. Somebody's got these last 2 at level 4, and this is very, very far from level 4. This is a level 1 question. At the end of the training, all you're doing is asking that participant, would you recommend this to somebody else? Did you like it well enough to tell some of your colleagues, hey, this is a training worth going to? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
All righty, next. Describe the difference between verbal and nonverbal adult-child interaction strategies. Oh, yeah, hooray, you're right. That is, at the end of a training, you would be asking them to talk about that a little bit on the evaluation form. Why would we ask them that on an evaluation form? Why is that a logical question to ask?
Well, it gives you an idea of what they learned.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want on an evaluation. What did you learn about here? What can you tell me? Not because they have had to memorize it, but it's just a way to evaluate what got through. This is immediate. In no way would that tell me they learned it, long term, right?
Right.
But it does give us an indication, oh, these are the things they caught in this training. That's good. That came across clearly. Does that help you as a trainer?
Yes.
Yes, in many ways. So that is participant learning. All right, level 2. Next. List the current types and amounts of materials that are accessible to the children in your block area. Okay, this question indicates that the adults have done something. What does it indicate that they've done?
Results and impact. Wouldn't that be level 4 then?
No, it's something the adults have done.
Oh, okay.
The pre-assignment.
No. Yes, we would ask this in a pre-assignment because we want to measure against it, but now, in terms of evaluation, what level is this?
Level 3.
This is level 3. Some weeks later after the training now, you've gone back to see, have the adults, in fact, made some changes in the amounts of materials, the types and amounts of materials that they now have in the classroom. So this list, you're asking them for a list of the types and amounts of materials that are now accessible to the children in the block area. So that is a post-training, level 3, what have the adults done differently in that block area? Question. Yes?
Yes.
That makes sense there because we're all over the board here. Anybody have questions? Because remember, we're talking about evaluation now. And whoever said pre-training, you are right. You would have asked for this same list in a pre-assignment or just plain pre-training or in the needs assessment, right?
Yes.
Because you want something to measure against. But because we're talking about evaluation now, what we're asking for here is a level 3 evaluation. What are teachers doing in terms of the materials and the amounts of material? Clear?
Yes.
Alrighty, next. What did you like best about your training experience today? Okay, the bulk of you are absolutely right. This is just asking again for their opinion, their reaction. Who's ever looking at this on a level 4, I hope you speak up and ask some questions, because this, again, is as far from a level 4 as you can get. This is purely asking the participant, did you like the workshop today? Okay? So if you're not clear on this, please speak up and ask some questions. Next. What are 4 to 6 different book genres represented in children's books? All right, can somebody out there explain why this is a level 2 question and where it falls? Anybody?
You're asking what they already know.
You're asking what, help me out, gang. What are we asking? What they what?
What they learn. What they
It's
learn.
what they learned about in the training. If we're talking about book genres in our training, remember what we talked about when we were face-to-face? All right, in this workshop, if I presented all the book genres that are out there, in the evaluation, I might want to find out if they remember any of those, right? Or if they even know what I mean by book genre. So in the evaluation, if I say, write down 4 to 6 different book genres that are represented in children's books, well, even if they write down 3, I have an idea that they learned a little something about book genres, right?
Yes.
So it is an inquiry about what they learned. All right? Again, the person that's putting this at level 4, this is not a level 4. This is a level 2, something that is asked at the end of the training, just finding out what people can tell you that they learned about in that training. Next. Was the pace of the training appropriate? Okay, we've got pretty much agreement on that because this is participant what?
Her reaction.
Yeah, their opinion, their reaction. You know, did they think the pace of the training went all right? Okay, next. Please rate the overall value of today's training on a scale of 1 to 5. And of course, you'd give the 1 means this and 5 means that. But what kind of question is this? Okay, again, 100%. You've got level 1 down. This is an opinion. You're asking their opinion and you want to find out. Now, if everybody were to rate that as a 1, they're telling you a pretty strong indication that they didn't think that the training was very valuable, right? Mm-hmm. Same with on the other one. If everybody gave you a 5 on the pace, then you would say, boy, I want to keep the pace of this work just like this. Everybody thought this was a good pace, right? That's why those questions have value, don't they?
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, just because it's a level 1 doesn't mean it doesn't have value, all right? Next. Was there enough time allowed for questions to be asked and answered? Okay, again, overwhelming agreement. It is a level 1. It's asking their opinion whether they thought there was enough time in this workshop for people to ask questions and get them answered. Now, if everybody in the workshop said no, you'd have to say to yourself as a trainer, I keep thinking I'm leaving them time for asking questions, but apparently I'm not because everybody thinks I'm not. So again, this is a valuable question to know. Now, if you ask this question in your first 5 workshops and everybody's always saying yes, do you think you have to keep asking it in your workshops?
No.
No, you have to find out if people are pretty much saying this woman, you know, she's always asking us for questions. She always gives time to answer them. And you probably can skip asking that question for maybe, 10 workshops down the road and then put it in there again and see if you're slipping. Do you see what I'm saying when I say that?
Yes.
Kind of checking yourself. All right, I'm pretty good at this. I don't have to worry about this for all. But, you know, after a few workshops, you might want to ask again just to make sure that you're maintaining your good level of making sure that you ask questions and are allowing time for them to be answered. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes.
All right, next. What are 3 changes you could make based on the principles of arranging the learning environment? You're a little slower on the draw, but you are right. This is a level 2 inquiry again. What you're getting at here, you're asking them what 3 changes are they could make, but in asking that question, what are their answers going to tell you?
What they learned.
Yeah, what they learned about. They may or may not make those changes, and you're not asking that they do, right? What you're asking here is based on what you learned about today, what are 3 changes you might make in your environment? Answering that question just indicates to the trainer, they got that, and that out of this training, and that's good information. That's good evaluative information for the trainer. All right? Next. An increased score, you've got increased score results on the ITERs, ECHRs, or the class assessment. All right, the bulk of you are saying, 3/4 of you are saying that this is a level 4. What makes you think it's a level 4?
There was a result from the children's scores.
That's right, scores are results. What the teachers did, they had to do something in that classroom in order for this score to be improved. So what the teachers did is level 3, and the results is level 4. So those of you who said level 4, you are absolutely right. That is a results and impact question. Okay, next. Percent of increase in the use of open-ended questions when talking with children during small group time. Going back and forth. If we were looking at children and the increased verbalness of their answers, what level would that evaluation be? If children's verbal output increased because of the way teachers were talking to them, what level of evaluation would that be?
4.
4. But what we're asking about here is what?
Results.
No, look. What is it asking for? Percent of increase in what?
Oh, the teacher's doing it.
Change.
Aha! It's the teacher that's asking the open-ended question, right?
Yeah.
Yes? And so what we want to find out, is there an increase in that teacher's use of open-ended questions? If there is, then we can go on to level 4 and say, how is that impacting the mean length of utterance from the child? Making sense?
Yes.
Questions? Anybody? Because we got 50-50 here. Has it been cleared up?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Next. What were 2 key learning points for you today? Almost unanimous. Oh, slipped a little bit. What are we asking for here? It's even in the sentence. Oh, somebody said level 4 again. Learning is the key word. What are 2 key learning points? If you're doing a written evaluation at the end of training, this is a level 2, the trainer is asking what they learned about today, right?
Yes.
And what people learn about is a level 2. All right, next. We may be just about close to the end. All right, here we go. Write 3 open-ended questions you might ask a child while they are engaged in play. Thanks, Patty. What are we asking for here, folks? Somebody explain, this is a level 2. Why is it a level 2?
It's what they've learned and how they can use it, sort of, I guess. I don't know. It's what they're learning in their training, and they can use it to make open-ended questions.
Yeah, if in the training that day you talked about what an open-ended question is, how to use them, why you use them, what they look like, what they sound like, right? That's all the training's been about, right?
Yes.
Everybody get that? So on the evaluation at the end of the training, you're simply going to say, write down 3 open-ended questions. Now, whatever they write, me as the trainer, when I look through those evaluations and I read their 3 examples, am I going to find out if they had a pretty good handle on what an open-ended question is?
Yes.
Or not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's evaluation. And let's say that I had 18 people there, and 17 of the 18 people, all of what they wrote down were indeed open-ended questions. What does that tell me as a trainer in terms of evaluation?
That they learned what you were trying to get taught.
I was pretty darn clear about open-ended question style, wasn't I?
Yes.
So is that a valuable question to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than saying, define what an open-ended question is, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
I'm actually asking them to write some examples of them, and if they can do it, then I know they got it. Okay, next. Was an appropriate amount of content covered during this training? Okay, unanimous. Yes, that's asking their opinion. Next. Are you motivated to attend a follow-up session on this topic? What kind of question is this?
Opinion.
Yep, this is an opinion. This is reaction. Did you like it well enough to come to another one? That's all it is. It's a level 1. How'd you like this workshop today? I think we're on our last one. Next. On a scale of 1 to 5, rate the content knowledge displayed by the trainer. Okay, again, what is this asking for?
Opinion.
The opinion of the participant, their reaction to the training or their reaction to the trainer. How do they think the trainer was knowledgeable? You know, on a scale of 1 to 5, how knowledgeable? That's truly just an opinion of the trainer. All right. So, it's time to interpret the results of this poll that you just completed. And the results are going to be compiled on a graph that I'm going to put up next. And what? You can take over it. Oh, thank you. All righty. So what we want to look at is the graph and just see by looking at it what it tells us. So here we are. Take a look at that. I'm not asking you to read what's on the graph. I want you just to look at that graph and what are the implications that this graph is telling us about ourselves and what we know about evaluation questions.
That they tend to be level 1 and 2.
Okay.
That we use
so
then we use
the strengths-based part of that observation is what? What does that tell us about us and evaluation? From a strengths-based standpoint, what does that tell us about you guys and your understanding of evaluation? Levels of evaluation.
That we're more comfortable.
You need to be able to understand level 1 and 2 before you can get to 3 and 4.
Yeah.
For sure. And it also tells me as your trainer that you have some real strengths in understanding level 1 and level 2 inquiries. You understand level 1, which is just opinions and reactions from the participants, and you understand level 2, trying to get at kinds of things that they learned about in the training. That makes sense to you, right?
Yes.
So that graph is very, very clear there, okay? Why are we more competent with level 1 and level 2?
Because it's asking questions about our...
why does this happen? Why does the graph end up looking like this? Go ahead.
I think it's because, we, as trainers, we want to know what they liked or didn't like about our trainings, to know how to reflect and refine our trainings. So we can ask a lot of level 1 and level 2 questions to see if they've learned anything during our training.
Yeah, and why are we good at this? Why did the graph come out looking like this? Why does it look like this? Why are we good at this? Anybody?
Because we're trainers.
It's what we're used to. Mostly because we're participants. It's what we're used to. Right. We're used to receiving an evaluation at the end of training that asks questions like this.
Right.
So when we become a trainer, to create that evaluation is a fairly straightforward process for us. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, it's easy too.
Yeah, it's easier. It's much easier. All right. So this is additional proof that knowledge and understanding come before practice and skills. Intellectually, you recognize level 3 and level 4 questions and inquiries. For the most part, you may be goofed up on some of these, but for generally, you get the difference between level 3, change in behavior, and level 4, results and impact. But the action and application is going to be a lot more difficult. Okay? How new is level 3 and level 4 evaluation to you?
I don't think it's new. It's just not, I think as a teacher, you know that you do these things in your classroom, but like for trainings that you've been to, usually trainers don't follow up with you.
Right.
So you tend to just get your paper, fill it out, and turn it in, and that's it.
It goes right back to familiarity again. Level 1 and level 2 are done all the time. They're easier. Everybody does them. So when you become a trainer, you do it. It's very automatic. It's built right into the time sequence and all of that. And yet, level 3 and level 4 evaluation is all the information that tells the person hiring you what the return on their investment is, and none of us are doing it. When I say none of us, that's a general statement. Typically, people are not doing it unless they're forced to do it by funders. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So that said, we kind of know why this happens. We know what the chart means. We know why this happens. Because of familiarity, because of time, because of knowledge and lack of knowledge for how to do it well. Would you agree?
Yeah.
A lot of people do not know how to do level 3 and 4 evaluation efficiently and effectively, okay? So my final question is, of these 4 levels of evaluation, which are the most critical levels and why?
I feel like level 3 and 4 are the most critical, but they're not done. Because I think, we want, the whole purpose of training is to make sure that there is a behavior change in who we're training so that there can be an impact in the people that they're, teaching.
Right. Well, you're absolutely right. We just, there's no validity when we train someplace and we go back a little while later and we either say they're doing nothing or, oh my goodness, they're doing so much better. What do those statements mean, really? What do you think? Well, they don't mean anything because we've got nothing to back it up, right?
Yes.
We have no facts to say they're doing nothing, and we have no facts to say they're doing better because we've not measured anything before we went in the training, and we've not measured anything since we've done the training. And so we're not measuring against anything. And what I want to get across from this is to do that is not that much extra work, and it is exactly what the one participant said. These are the critical levels. They are the critical levels of evaluation, and yet they're rarely done. They're rarely asked for. Yet, if you started giving this kind of information to a director, how much do you think that would ensure you being asked back to train again? Sure. Yeah, that's all you can do is laugh, right? I mean, it's level 3 and level 4 are the most important because they measure accountability. And according to our initial definition of effective training, there must be a behavior change on the part of the participant. Acquiring new knowledge and skills will not fulfill the workplace outcome if the knowledge and skills are not implemented. Funders are interested in results and impact and a return on their investment. Level 3 and level 4 is what provides this. Also, when a trainer can show the director that a staff had a certain percentage of improvement in or a change in behavior, even if it's just that 8%, that beats having no facts, and it's your proof that your training has made a difference. And it also serves to motivate and inspire staff to keep their practice going, to try and continue to improve, and eventually to maintain those good practices that they've learned. Yeah. Then when you follow up by proving results and impact, which is going to come even after this, directors are far more apt to ask you back and to do more training, to want to work with you in terms of following your direction, and to trust your decisions. Would you all agree with that?
Yes.
Yes.
And as I said earlier, your tone of voice, if you say, well, there was an 8% improvement, nobody's going to get excited about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you say, oh my goodness, just since the time we did this training and now I've looked at these results, your staff as a whole has made an 8% improvement on whatever it is you train in. Do you think that would fire some people up?
Yes.
Yeah. Not only does the director need to know this information, who else needs to know this information?
The staff.
The staff need to know. They're the ones doing the work. They need to know that overall there's been an 8% improvement, and if we keep working on this, and if we keep practicing and implementing these strategies, and we measure again in 4 months down the road or 6 months down the road, can you imagine what the change might be then? And would you not be excited if you were a staff person working toward that goal?
Mm-hmm.
And would you not be excited if you were the director calling you in to do this training and seeing this kind of growth and proving it? That's all that I need to say in terms of how important this is. So, what I want to ask you is, what are the implications for trainers regarding planning for evaluation? It's something you said yourself. We're really not doing that right now. We're not planning for it. We even maybe know we should, but we aren't taking the time. Nobody's making us. We really don't know how to do it very well. And so I think the big thrust of it here is, if we say there's a process to training and part of the training plan includes level 3 and level 4, then when we say what are the implications for trainers regarding planning for evaluation, then we want to say all 4 levels of evaluation are what?
Important.
Important. Very important. If you plan for level 1 and level 2, you should be planning for level 3 and level 4 because they're all important. And, as we said earlier, level 3 and level 4 are critical. They are critical. All 4 levels of evaluation must be
planned.
It isn't going to happen if you don't plan for it. Nobody makes up your some people do make up your evaluation form for you, but let's put it this way. A very good evaluation form is made up by you, not some company that just has people ranking. Ranks, a question or two with a rank on it is okay, but where are you really going to get your information on a written evaluation? From what kind of question? This should be a no-brainer.
Open-ended.
An open-ended question. So a couple ranking ones or a couple high, medium, low stuff, that's okay. But there should also be a couple very key questions on your written evaluation that allows the participant to answer some open-ended questions in terms of what they learned about and some specific answers to the content that they learned about and those kinds of things. Let me go back here. I just want to make sure this is very clear to everybody that you know, what makes this is kind of cut your work in half. You can do level 1 and level 2 evaluations. If you don't do them, somebody's doing them for you, and I just don't worry about those. They're done. I do think you could improve on them by asking some more questions about content and less questions about feelings, right, and opinion. Now, some of those questions are important, yes?
Yes.
But the bulk of the questions should be much more around content and what was covered in content, okay? But added to that, the really big thing is all parts of evaluation are important, and you need to start adding level 3 and level 4 evaluation. I'm here always to help you do that. And it may not be something you do right away, but it should be something that you have in your overall plan and in your training process to start including, always including level 3 and level 4. They are simple. There are things that can be taken care of and start measured against from your needs assessment questions that you ask or a pre-assignment. Is everybody clear on that?
Yes.
And it can be one thing, it can be two things. It doesn't have to be 7 and 8 things that you're measuring. 1 or 2 key things, okay? And both for level 3 and level 4 should be gained and can be gained in that pre-workshop stuff that you're asking people to do. And then to collect that information post-training is going to be a whole lot simpler, and you're going to actually have meat to work with, and you're going to be able to come up with percents. You're going to be able to identify behavior change, and you're going to be able to identify percentages of impacts that those behavior changes have had on the children. Everybody clear? Mm-hmm. Questions? Oops, I went backwards. Thinking about all of this, a lot of information. There was, you really did a lot of thinking in the poll that we took. What questions do you have while we're together here about this process? I can always deal with you on email, on the phone, and those kinds of things, but right now while we're all together, is there something that kind of stands out that you have a question about and you'd like answered right now? Or comments that you'd like to make about this process? Anybody? After doing this webinar and thinking a little bit more, that's kind of new to a lot of you in terms of actually thinking about doing it, what is your motivation level at this juncture to make sure that this becomes an integral part of your training plan? And why?
Well, to me, it makes sense to do it because that's the whole purpose of why you want to train. You want to train people to have the changes and to be able to have the impact. So if you're not focusing on level 3 and 4 in your evaluations, you're not going to know if your trainings are doing that or not.
That's so on target. We can say that, we can articulate it, but isn't it interesting when you reflect back and say, really very few people are implementing this?
Right.
And yet what you said is absolutely firm and true. Anybody else? Is it scary to think about doing it? And what's scary about it?
I don't know if it's scary, but it's just finding a way to keep up with all the different participants in your training and making sure that they are having the changes and that they are providing the impact, down the road. And so it's finding a way that's convenient, I guess, in some ways for trainers to be able to do that.
You make a good point. You make a very good point. And remember, kind of, to keep it lighter on your shoulders, think about this in the same way we think about needs assessment. Do you remember at the face-to-face I said if you send out 18 needs assessment but 5 people return it, is that good? Do you remember the answer?
Yes.
Yeah, that is good. You use that 5. Would we like 17 out of 18 or 18 out of 18? Sure we would. Sure we would. Everybody knows we would. But the likelihood of that isn't going to necessarily happen. But I'm happy with the 5 that I get, and I'm going to work with the 5 I get. Do the same thing in terms of level 3 and level 4 evaluation. Find 1 key thing or 2 key things to measure, both for the adults and what you're going to look for in the children. Do you get that in your head, okay? something very simple, and then put that out to the people attending the training and hope for the best. Hope to get many, many people participating in this and sending you results, but work with what you get back. Do your percentages after what you get back, because when you can report back to those directors and participants, they aren't going to know who did and who did not send in information, right? Only themselves. And when they start reading these increases and they start seeing the impact, do you think that might make a difference in their participation level of level 3 and level 4 later on?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It probably will. And I think it's the same true with needs assessment. I let people know all the time that based on the needs assessment, I did this or I did that. And I think that I get better participation on needs assessment because of it. And I think the way that I write a needs assessment makes all the difference in the world. I don't write a long one, but I ask for key information, and that makes a difference on how people respond back. So, give yourself time to learn to do that and watch how that does increase instead of just feeling intimidated by it's a big task. Keep it simple. I'll help you do that whenever you need and however you need it. But the fact is you've got to start doing it in order to see that it is worth doing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Following this webinar, you are going to have an online assignment, and you're going to have an opportunity to practice writing level 3 and level 4 questions. It's going to be, it's going to be on the same topic we've been working on all along, which is the literacy thing, okay? Keep that in mind. I'm not asking for a lot. I want you to think about what change in behavior would you like to see a teacher make, and as a result of that change, what would children be doing differently? And that's the scope of which this assignment is based on. So don't have it get heavy in your head. Work with it, not against it, okay? And you can always listen to this webinar again. You can go through that polling and look at those questions again if you need to, just as a refresher. If you get in the midst of that assignment, you go, I got to go back and listen to that. That's okay. It's going to be available in the course, a recording of this webinar, okay?
Okay.
And then finally, I just want to say thank you very much for your time, your attention, and your participation. This is a topic that is old but new to us because we don't exercise it. And so please do not hesitate, like I said, to listen to this again, to email me with questions, and to give that assignment your best shot. And I realize that as your trainer it is. When I provide feedback, it's in a process of only helping you learn how to think about level 3 and level 4 evaluation. So thank you very, very much. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.